All right, again, welcome everyone to this evening's meeting of Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee for ANC3C. This is May 2025. We are just going to jump right into our agenda. So first up, we have a ABCA application for retailer's Class C Tavern license at 3504 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, Cork Cleveland Park. The nature of the operation is the establishment will be a tavern with indoor seating for 35, a sidewalk cafe with seating for 8, and a total occupancy load of 5. Carry out and delivery endorsement. So this is in 3C06. So Jay.
Great. Thank you, Chair Pagets. Yeah, really excited about this project. We got the opportunity to speak with the applicant a few weeks ago, and should be a really interesting addition to the neighborhood. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Diane. Diane, you're muted.
So let me ask you, you're fine. And do you have anything like any screens you want to share at all?
I don't.
Okay, not a requirement.
Sorry. And my husband is here too, who's my business partner. And then we asked Dan Kaufman, who's our lawyer, to be on too, in case, just in case, I don't know. He may be silent for the whole time too. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Janelle and Jay, for welcoming us and for the time we got to sit down a couple weeks ago and chat. I think it's a little more than that now. It seems like the time has really flown by very quickly. So we have a very small space next to Medium Rare on Connecticut Avenue that we are looking to do a small outpost of Cork at. And it's about 900 square feet on the first floor and 400 square feet on the second floor. And we are going to be putting in a small wine bar and wine shop on the first floor, and then a tasting room with the ability to do classes and events on the second floor. And that with like a really nice table up there with seating for guests. So that'll be fun. It'll be a fun space. The landlord is building a really nice staircase in the space that'll make it really open. So we're really excited about the space. We love the windows. It has a great sense to it. So it's really going to be a wonderful space. Sorry, our child is calling us to track meet tonight. Anyways, that's what the plan is. We're gonna have about 15 seats downstairs, 20 seats upstairs. Very small by the glass program. We're really excited about this because we think it gives us a great ability to really rotate through wines, have a really diverse selection, fun stuff, keep it really changing all the time so that it can be really vibrant and interesting for the neighborhood, with an array of cheese and some small plates to share as guests come in, really a stop in so people can have a little bite, share a glass, very community oriented, very neighborhood oriented. Just a fun little addition to the neighborhood, nothing too serious. And that's really the vibe we're going for. It's a similar vibe to what we have down on 14th Street, but just in a much smaller footprint. As we've sort of discovered over the years, being on 14th Street now for 17 years, lots of our friends and neighbors and regulars have all moved up into your neighborhood and have been asking us for years and years to come up there. And so we are finally doing it. But we wanted to do it in a small way that felt really intimate and really just sort of embrace the neighborhood in a way that the neighbors would appreciate and want. So that's really the origin of the story. And so that's what we're trying to do up there. So we wanted to come and give you a little preview of that and answer any questions anybody has. about it. I would love to show you a drawing, and which is in the works. So as soon as we have that, which will hopefully be any day now, we'll be able to get you one.
Yeah.
Anything to add, sweetheart?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no.
Any questions?
I don't know if folks have ever been to our place in 14th Street or our store we have up in Spring Valley, but it's just to chime in what Diane said. When we opened Cork up 17 plus years ago, we opened it up because it's a neighborhood. We live with like 1,000, 1,200 feet of Cork. We wanted to open up a neighborhood spot, and we want to do the same thing in Cleveland Park. So we're very in tune to being part and integral in the neighborhood.
And if you ask our children, they want us to move up there.
Yes.
So the other thing we should note is that we focus on old world wines. So France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Austria. They're organic, biodynamic, sustainable, small producers, family run estates. So it's really, that's kind of what we do. We curate the selection, very hands-on approach to wine. One of the things that excites us about having this ever rotating by the glass selection is that we run out of wine a lot because we really focus on these small producers. And so it enables us to really be able to even focus more in a more intense way on those really small productions where we may get a case of wine only for a year and we can actually pour it by the glass, which we can't do on 14th Street because we run out so quickly of it. And this smaller venue will enable us to be able to do that. So we're excited about that.
Great. Thank you. And did you mention, sorry, the price range that you are looking for? Because sometimes people hear old world wines and,
Like-
rare, and they're like, ah.
No, we like to keep it accessible. So our sweet spot is wines that hopefully will stay this way.
That we can't control.
we're
Right.
a
Totally get that.
concerned about tariffs right now, but we aim to keep our wines in sort of the $13 to $27 range is like our sweet spot of wines. And we definitely have things lower and also higher. And we like to cater to the neighborhood. So we find that in our Spring Valley store, there's different varietals and different price points that people like. And we lean into that. And in 14th Street, we lean into what people like and the price points there too. So it'll take us a little while probably to get adjusted to that and figure out exactly what people like the most in Cleveland Park. But that's definitely our plan, is to lean into that. And then we're going to also be offering something that we call our Flight Club, which we do at our other locations, which is a monthly wine club. It features 3 wines every month. That won't change. That'll be a $75 a month club where you get 3 wines. You can also get 6 wines for double the price. And it focuses on the wines we do in our flights, which we do on 14th Street. And it's, again, same thing, smaller producers, but we do tasting notes and notes on the winery and notes about the winemakers with every flight club that we do. So it's a fun way to explore wine that's not too expensive. You're averaging about $25 a bottle there. And it's a nice way for folks to enjoy the wines that we feature every month.
Super. All right, opening it up to questions from the committee or commissioners first. Anyone?
Yeah, Diane, I was going to ask about the tariffs, but you already spoke about that. So hope everything resolves itself smoothly on that front. The other question I was going to ask, and I was checking through my notes from the last time we spoke about this, what would be your kind of expected timeline once this ABCA approval gets processed?
We're still hopeful for September.
Like mid-September.
Yeah, we just got a demolition permit, so we're able to start some of the demo. If anybody remembers the space, it was a bank. And so there's some funky stuff on the ceiling, and there's some lovely glass partitions in there now that need to leave. So that stuff's we're gonna take care of that. And then we've put in for our permits. So we're waiting on all that. But there's not a lot to do in the space. I mean, we just want it to be open. So aside from the staircase and a small kitchen that we're putting in, and shelving, obviously, for the wine. There's not much to do. So we are really hoping that we'll be able to get it going by mid-September. I'm actually meeting with our contractor tomorrow morning at Buffalo Bergen because they open at 7 a.m., which is awesome. And going over some of the details. So we're moving full steam ahead, and we're hoping that that the DC will also move full steam ahead on our permits. So we will be able to, especially the building ones, those are the ones I'm most worried about the timeline on, right? So hopefully we'll be able to get everything done by September.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other committee members or commissioners before we go to public? Bob?
No questions, just really
By the
happy
way-
you're,
Oh,
what?
I was gonna say you're really excited about the tinned fish.
Oh,
Oh, tell me more about the tin fish. No, very excited and want to just welcome you to the neighborhood. This sounds like a really great addition to our community. So thank you for believing in us.
thank you. Thank you. Same. Thank you.
Tammy?
Hi, I just wanted to be, I guess, a welcoming face. I've known these two for quite a long time, and am so excited to welcome them to Cleveland Park. So just sort of on behalf of the neighbors on Ordway Street, everyone's really excited for Cork coming in, and just want to reiterate to the committee our support, and whatever you need from us, let us know.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was in Cork on Saturday, and there's a couple who live on Macomb Street, not where the apartments are. And they happened to see me and recognize me. And they were expressing their excitement about, because they're trucking down here for wine, and they were very excited.
Very good. Anybody else from the community? You can use the raise hand feature at the bottom. All right. So with that, next steps would be to get this on our agenda for our May 19th meeting.
Yep.
Correct.
Letters, do you want the stipulated and permanent letters of support?
Are you asking me,
Yeah.
Dan?
Or your lawyer?
Per your timeline, we don't need a stipulated license since we have plenty of time till then. So just
Okay,
a regular letter's fine.
cool. Just wanted to check.
I appreciate that.
So
We haven't done this in a long time, so
Like, how do we?
we hadn't done it in a long time until the first time that I messed it up when I did not realize I had to do 2 separate letters. So that was fun.
See you
So
out.
let's see here, something wildly, questionable from the public. We usually put that on the consent calendar, and we'll push that out with our notice that goes out a week before the meeting. And then you won't have to show up to present again unless, again, we heard something concerning from the community between now and then. But
Okay. Well, just let us know what you need from us. We're happy to be anywhere and talk about it at any time.
super. Great. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Appreciate it.
Happy Mother's Day for those who are celebrating.
All right. So
Thank you.
you're very, very welcome. Oops, where did I go? So the next item on our agenda is an ABCA application for retailers Class C Tavern license at 2621 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, Tavern 18. The nature of operation is a new Class C tavern with seating capacity of 48 and a total occupancy load of 48 and a sidewalk cafe with 30 seats. The licensee is also requesting the alcohol carryout and delivery endorsement, holiday extension of hours endorsement, and an entertainment endorsement to provide live entertainment and dancing inside of the premises. I am not seeing the applicant here. However, this is going into the former McIntyre space, and this applicant was here last month presenting on the old Maddie's space. And had mentioned this application as well. I believe it's going to be a steak and frit restaurant. And the you know, basically the same application that he put in for the last one is here in front of us, where he's asking for these endorsements that he's probably not going to use. He's not going to use, but is just wanting to have them. So does anyone have any questions or concerns about this application, or is anyone here from this applicant to speak to it that I don't have the name of?
Commissioner Pagets, I think you're right. I think it's the same, and I'm happy to draft it like I did the last one.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns from the community members? Bob?
What are the endorsements?
Alcohol carryout and delivery, holiday extension of hours, and an entertainment endorsement. It's the same ones that he asked for on the last one, and just explain, like, if he wants to have like bingo one night, needs like that entertainment endorsement to even have that. Any other questions or concerns? All right, hearing and seeing none, we will move on to an HRP application that's not yet filed, I don't think, for 3409 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. Proposal for a one-story mixed-use addition to an existing retail property. This is an initial presentation and discussion. And Jay, this is also in your SMD, so.
Yes,
There you go.
it is. And I got to speak with the architect on this project a few weeks ago over the phone. I see that John Oderoy is on the call with us. John, I know you sent the documents over this afternoon. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to look them over yet. So if you'd like to share your screen so you can just walk us through what you're planning for this site, I think we're all really interested to see what you got in mind.
Yes, no worries. And thank you for the opportunity and the patience. And I apologize I couldn't get the documents to you earlier. I just got back from Idaho and was a little bit behind, but I will share my screen and we'll just walk through it together. Let me know if you can see.
Yep.
Okay, so we have not applied yet to HPRB. Plan to do that this month to get on the June calendar. So I think this is a great opportunity to explain the project to you, what we're hoping to do, to take any feedback you may have in advance of our application. I think it could be really helpful to really hone what we're doing. In short, this is for Femme Fatale, which is a retail shop at 3409 Connecticut Avenue, as you mentioned. Femme Fatale is a shop that effectively allows makers and entrepreneurs a place within the local community to sell their wares, sell their materials. They receive a small concession, and so does the owner for showcasing and showing their wares. And what the owner would like to do is effectively expand the ground floor unit of the retail shop to offer kind of a multi-purpose use space. Particularly, she's interested in a space that allows some of the makers and the entrepreneurs that she works with a place to display their craft. You know, they may have like bookbinding workshops or candle making workshops. You know, in addition, they want to have community discussions, talks. Every Sunday they have small kind of yoga meetings and, you know, small community events. So she's just trying to expand the palette of kind of community services that she offers. In addition, she wants to take advantage of the opportunity to use the mixed use zoning designation and add a couple levels of residential capacity on top of the additional retail unit. Project goals. One thing we looked at, you know, as through design was the Connecticut Avenue Development Guideline. You know, we took it seriously that these were kind of 6 goals that the guidelines identify as being kind of critically important to development along Connecticut Avenue. So throughout the presentation, you'll see these badges on each sheet showing, hey, this is an opportunity where we were really or particularly concerned about some of these different goals and kind of guidelines we're meant to achieve. Overall kind of development goals, it's a small local business. We're trying to work to support that business, to take the opportunity to own that land, that site, and really take advantage of the development opportunity to help support that business. We're also taking the opportunity to introduce housing. Again, 2 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom units above the commercial. The owner is identifying that, these units might be for some of her makers. Maybe they come and do, temporary residencies, or they may stay on a more long-term kind of a more long-term basis and kind of work with her more closely on developing their work with her. But there's a direct relationship between the people who will be making and selling things in this space, as well as the people who will live above. Of course, it's an historic district, so it's incredibly important to us to respect the historic fabric. If you are familiar with this unit, it's a very long unit, so it allows us to do a lot that won't be particularly visible from the street, which helps to maintain the kind of consistency of the historic fabric along Connecticut Avenue. Finally, as I mentioned, it's important that space offers communities kind of a community space, a place where people within the owner's community and in the neighborhood, again, can take best advantage of the facility to kind of, experience her programming and so forth. Very quickly from a design perspective, again, it's important we integrate with historic context. We're very conscious of visibility from Connecticut Avenue as per the historic preservation guidelines. And I'll talk about that in more detail in a second. There are some zoning setbacks that we have to respect, and those are the kind of the 2 critical elements that are dictating the form of the building that we're planning. And then finally, we want, a building that has complementary materials, something that respects what's around it, but doesn't try to imitate it. And you'll see that a little bit later in the presentation. Very quickly, I'll run through existing conditions. This is the site itself from Connecticut Avenue and our zoning analysis. Again, it's a mixed-use zone, and right now, FAR and lot occupancy were beneath the maximum allowed. It's really the historic preservation sightlines that's kind of dictating the form, so we don't even we don't exceed the required numbers. And here is that sight line. This is across the street from the site in the middle of the sidewalk, where a 6-foot tall person looking at the street would basically have this sight line. And we're trying to fit our development under that sight line within reason. To the back, there's an alley there. It's about a 20-foot alley with a 20-foot kind of parking area. And then there's a 3-story kind of residential development right behind that. That's well away from our property line. It's a good, 50, almost 60 feet away. Okay. A couple of photos. There's the project site, as you can see from across the street. And when you're on the project site looking across Connecticut Avenue, this is what you see from here. Again, the project site looking down Connecticut Avenue towards Ordway. I think it's also worth mentioning that there are a couple of spots right on Connecticut Avenue adjacent to the project site where the addition is a little bit taller than what is asked for in the historic preservation guidelines. Again, we're trying to stay respectful of those guidelines, but it is worth noting that these guys are visible from across the street. So there's a little bit of precedent for that. Once you go down Connecticut and turn towards Ordway, we're looking in that direction. This alley is where a lot of things will happen. We'll talk about very shortly. Coming down Ordway, here's the project alley. And this is the project site once you make a right on the alley. This is the unit right here, the back of the unit. You can see right here, it's a very skinny unit. It's only about 15 feet wide. And this is our proposed section here. So again, from across the street on Connecticut Avenue, we're trying to shape this building to really fit under that sight line. Then we project out towards the back, and as long as we maintain the 15-foot rear setback required for the rear yard, then we should be good on that account. Again, plenty distance away from the existing 3-story buildings, which, you know, were more or less complementary in height. And this is just a 3-dimensional massing to give you kind of a sense of what that looks like. This is Connecticut Avenue up here, and this is the alley towards the rear. Okay. So to go through the design drawings very quickly, which are in process. So again, this is a great opportunity to take some feedback as they're still developing. Very simple units. This is that retail unit, the new retail unit. So you come in from here through the existing. This is the addition. There'd be a small ADA bathroom, kind of a small seated area. And then the rest of this is, again, areas where you can set up tables where the makers will be making their wares. There'll be displays for additional goods. Everything's going to be mobile, so they can push everything away. And on the weekends, when they have more event programming, this becomes a more open event type space. It's all going to open to the small rear yard out here, where you get your 15-foot setback. And then it's about 15 feet wide. So it's just a small deck area to the back that allows them to do outdoor programming. We back up. If you come from the rear alley, you can come up these steps into the residential portion. So that's the private entrance to go up. Once you go up to the first floor, you'd stop here, and this lets you into a pretty, again, it's a tight but very open kind of unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Over here, there'd be a window and a smaller living room. Here, there'd be a smaller bathroom with a window that allows for egress out to the rear. Sorry. Going out of that unit, going up these stairs, we would go around, and this takes us to the 2nd floor, where again, you'd have light coming from the roof there and a small balcony, which you'll see in our renderings. It's not shown here. You come through here, small dining area, small living room, and again, a small bedroom with big windows that offer some light into the unit. And again, you can egress down from there as you would in any other house. Looking at the section again from across the street, the goal is to tuck that under the sight line. Although I am interested, and I would love to hear the committee's opinion on the possibility of projecting a little bit higher than the sight line. You know, if we can pop this up, say another foot into the air, another 2 feet, that would allow us to get more height in this retail unit and get more windows into this 1st floor unit, which are being a little bit overshadowed by the balcony above. Again, this is a closer look at that section and kind of how the 2 typical units would work. The back deck area, the alley, the existing residential over there. And for the elevations, as it's drawn right now, this is the existing Connecticut Avenue elevation, and on the right is the proposed, and they are the same because right now the way it's drawn, you should not see anything of the addition from the midway of the sidewalk. If you could levitate or float in the air or get on top of the roof, this is the addition piece that is way up top behind this guy right here. And again, if we go backwards a little bit, you can see it's set back from Connecticut Avenue almost 80 feet. So it's well away from the street, set pretty far to the back. Okay. And this is the idea of if we're allowed to go a little bit taller to really get those floors to align better, to get more light into that 1st floor unit, you know, this would only peak up about a foot or 2 above the front facade when viewed from across the street. It's much more subtle gesture than what you see next door or the unit further down Connecticut Avenue. And again, because it's pushed so far back on the site, I think the appearance from the street would be very minimal. Again, I'd be interested if the committee was amenable to this idea. This is the back alley, kind of a before shot. And this is an after shot or proposed shot for the back alley. Very simple. We put in a new fence with the unit number. This is that ground floor retail space. We get rid of the fence, you'll see a little bit better. Small deck out there, steps that lead you up to the residential area, small Juliet type balcony up here. And then just big windows on the second floor to bring as much light into that bedroom as possible. It's more of a more architectural kind of version of that rendering, what that might look like. It's really simple, very minimal, fiber cement board for the cladding, and just pops of color using tile and painted handrails. We're looking at potentially wood windows just to add some warmth. Materiality, this is the existing context right here. We see a lot of red brick, as you can imagine, a lot of concrete. It's a pretty industrial, back of alley scenario, nothing particularly fancy or special. And what we're proposing is, again, pretty simple materials that just complement your red brick and the concrete that we see everywhere. Again, little pop of color with the metal to give a more warm residential feel. Little pops of color with the tile. Standing seam metal roof. So again, if you did see a little bit of this from across from Connecticut Avenue, you'd be looking at a very neutral colored, clean metal roof. And then wood accents here and there to add some warmth and texture. That is about it. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Great. Thank you. We'll start with committee members and commissioners first. Bob, I see your hand has gone up.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. This is really interesting, and love to see people who are using the space that think they can get more out of their property there. I guess my first question is, if you were not constrained to that sight line that you've been building toward, would you design this differently? Would you make more use of the available vertical space?
Absolutely. If we weren't constrained by the sight lines, I think there'd be a couple different opportunities. We could go a little bit taller. We could potentially, cost allowing, extend over the existing retail space and make a larger unit. I think those are the big two options. And another thing that we'd like to do without the constraints are, again, if we can lift that first floor up, we can almost create kind of an outdoor deck on the above the retail area to give some more outdoor space or some balcony kind of deck space to that first floor unit. So it would offer opportunity for more amenities. It may offer an opportunity for just generally larger units. Actually, we could potentially even go one story higher, if I remember correctly from our early analysis. So there may even be an opportunity for more density. It's close. I think we start to run out of FAR, but I think it was a possibility, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Sorry, if you can go back to the sightline slide that shows that.
Sure. Give me 1 second.
The thank you slide is nice and all, but
my mom told me to be polite.
Context is key. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, so I appreciate those comments because, actually, can I share my screen real quick?
Please do.
Okay.
Hold on, let me do a co-host, Bob.
Oh, I'm gonna send a request to the host.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that this is from the same document that you started with, which is the Connecticut Avenue Design Guidelines.
I don't see your screen. Are you sharing?
Oh,
Do I need to stop?
You probably need to stop now,
Okay.
yeah. And now you should be able to see Bob's.
Awesome.
I see it.
Okay. I mean, so this is the product of the planning process at the Office of Planning put together, and the final document that went to HPRB to be reviewed. Now we're going through my next question. It would be, are you aware of the zoning process that's about to kick off in a couple weeks? But the idea here is that we can build on this front and be respectful of the historic character, but that doesn't mean it has to be invisible, you know, from what you can see from the street. It needs to be set back. It needs to be, you know, differentiated from the historic storefronts. But nowhere in this document does it say you have to not be able to see it. We're about to rezone this for 75 feet, and we're currently at 40 feet. So I just wanted to like put those thoughts out there, and would your approach to this be different, given that?
Yeah, again, it absolutely would. I was aware of the upzoning. When I reached out to the Office of Zoning, they said that wouldn't be enacted until or active until I guess they thought early 2026. Was trying to get more information on how much more capacity would be allowed. If we're allowed more capacity, I think the owner would definitely be interested in exploring, you know, the possibilities basically. I was there was a historic preservation guide that HPRB put out years ago that, you know, I kind of use as a default guide. Their recommendation is, again, visibility behind that sight line. If that's not the case anymore, if they're open to more, we're absolutely thrilled about that, because it will allow us at a minimum to just make for nicer spaces. I guess my question would be, is it just a matter of judgment or subjectivity as to how tall we could go? Is there, you know,
I mean,
what's the limit?
the first thing I would suggest is talk to the HPO staff. You have, you know, one of the downsides of being one of the first to go up higher than you currently are is that, you know, the context is that no one wants to probably see a middle finger on the avenue. But at the same time, these design guidelines were made for this block. And so the process has been, you know, pretty thoroughly considered by HPO staff. It's been considered by HPRB, who did say that any application that comes before them would be in the context of that specific project. They weren't going to just, you know, rubber stamp anything based on the design guidelines. They're going to look at each project individually, materials, you know, context of where it falls in the block, all of those things. But that said, the types of things that you were laying down as constraints, I don't think exist. I mean, there are constraints, there would be, but I think if you just like leaf through that design development guidelines book for Connecticut Avenue, that picture that I showed, there are lots of samples that went up that were absolutely visible from the street. I mean, the zoning that's going to be changed, and not my timeline that the OP has told us, is that they'd like this to be finished by the end of this year. So yes, beginning of 2026 or end of 2025. But they're talking about 75 feet, you know, height limit plus penthouse and an FAR of 5.0. So right now you have an FAR of 2.0 for residential. You know, so that's a significant change. And it's, you know, 7 or 8 months away.
Awesome. Is the guide you're referring to, because again, I think I have an older version, is the newer guide available online?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'll get a link and put it in the chat, but it's, if you Google Connecticut Avenue Development Guidelines, you'll get OP's site and it has it on there.
I think where the confusion might be happening here, Bob and John, with this is that, John, you might be looking at the Cleveland Park Historical Society guidelines.
They definitely were consistent with Again, I have this old HPRB guide that's on their website, and that's what I've used in the past. And I think the Cleveland Park guidelines piggyback on that, or maybe use that document. So I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah, so those weren't approved by HPRB in as a counter to the Connecticut Avenue design guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
That is what HPRB approved moving forward.
I can't chat to everyone, so I just sent you the link.
Okay, sorry about that.
Is there any chance that the Cleveland Park Historic, the ARC, that they have a different take on things, or do they have to? Is that a yes?
Chris, I mean, isn't there someone from the Historical Society here? No.
They're not raising their hand.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, yeah, they would weigh in on this for sure. They're a stakeholder who review projects like, and have an opinion. But the place where I would go first, given this, is to HPR to Todd Jones, who's the Cleveland Park reviewer at the Historic Preservation Office, and walk through what you're looking to do with them, because I think they would give you good advice in terms of what HPRB is most likely to approve.
Fair dues. Yeah, I reached out to Todd Jones in early days, but to your point, it would be really helpful, I think, to send him what we have now and just talk this through with some drawings in front of us.
Or maybe send him what you want to build.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
John and then Jay.
Thank you. The first question I was going to ask, I think, has been answered. Have you talked to HBO staff? Because they can be a whole lot more helpful, frankly, than we can be as to what is possible. But I would agree with Bob. I would urge you to talk to them and to get a sense of what they think the board might be willing to do. Also like to flag the point that zoning and HP are different. And if the zoning is changed, which I am sure it will be, that doesn't bind HP. The HP folks can say, yeah, your zoning says you can go up to 70 feet, but we think it's ugly, and we're not going to, and we're not going to pass it. So talk to the HPO staff, because at least in my experience, they can be very helpful.
Understood. Yeah, again, early days, but I reached out to Todd Jones to kind of get the lay of the land, but I think it's time to reach out again and follow up. So thank you.
Okay.
Great. John, thank you again for making the time to come talk to us. Really interesting presentation. I guess kind of building on, Bob's line of questioning about potentially making this project taller, adding, additional units. You had mentioned kind of earlier on in the presentation that the owner is specifically intending for the residential additions to be kind of for the creators who are, using the space. This is just a hypothetical. If, you were able to kind of incorporate more capacity into this project, would all the units, the additional ones, still be kind of reserved for the creators, or would those be more widely available for kind of general use? And you don't have to answer right now, but it's something to kind of put into your mind while we're talking through this.
Yeah, sorry, I think to your point, I don't know the answer to that. That's for her to decide, but
Right.
I'm certainly happy to share that information with her.
Okay, that'd be great. And then the other question, so about the alley, I'm just thinking we had another project proposed not too long ago that also had to do with construction in an alley, and we got a little bit of feedback from the community. People were concerned about their ability to take their trash out, things like that, while construction was happening. Are you all thinking about kind of how I guess, trash pickup and that kind of stuff in the alleyway would be impacted during construction?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. We haven't brought a contractor on yet to talk about kind of staging and how construction would work. But that's definitely something when we do our next price exercise, we could ask them to kind of elaborate on and put a vision out.
Okay, yeah, again, I guess just like the first question, something to consider. This came up in another proposal recently, so I wanted to make sure that, people are not getting too upset about any aspect of that.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Jack?
Hi, John. Just thank you for the great presentation, and just kind of wanted to reiterate the support you've been hearing from folks saying, we'd love to see if it gets taller or denser. I would love to see some sense of enclosure for Connecticut Avenue coming as we get some of these taller buildings on the main strip, and really excited to see that you're paying attention to some of the activation of the alleyway with some of those nice big windows. It can be a little dreary back there if you're walking as a shortcut from Ordway to Macomb. So I'm really supportive, and just wanted to say I was excited about the parts of the project that are looking to activate that alley a little more and make it less of a place where dumpsters and cars live, and maybe people can occasionally be. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. My comment is just thank you for coming to the meeting. Thank you for, the creativity that you've taken so far in accommodating a sightline. But again, I just don't see that should be a constraint with building above there. Because as, was previous mentioned, and we did a lot of work and a lot of community engagement was done on those design guidelines. So, I hope that they get used sooner than later. Understanding that, yes, the zoning process is another step in it, but hopefully it's something that you guys can look at and consider. But definitely, even whatever you want to do, move that a little bit more forward and see what HPO thinks of it, because I think generally this ANC in this community is in support of more units in that area sooner than later.
Excellent.
Especially with the artists being in it. Sounds like a great point to make. So anybody else from the community or committee? The general public is what I'm saying. You can raise your hand. Virtual, come on screen. All right, hearing and seeing none. Thank you again for your time. Look forward to future iterations and continuing, to work on this.
Excellent. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we will move on to our next item on this agenda, which is Chevy Chase Civic Site redevelopment discussion. ANC3C is an affected ANC because ANC3C does not have a community center. So this is in effect our community center too. Nor does DC or ANC3C have DC owned land suitable for new affordable housing in any scale. Therefore, we do have a vested interest. 3C has a vested interest in the outcome of this land disposition and the development plans in Chevy Chase. So I'm going to share this helpful summary that Bob shared with the committee earlier, that gives a comparative analysis of each of the plans, and also links to the presentations that were done by each of the teams in April, March, that go over their vision for the project and what they think that they can do. I will briefly review each of kind of the breakdown of each of the proposals to the site. And I will attempt to share a rendering of each one. And this is in the order that they were presented. Okay, so and just for briefing, on the, I'm sure everyone, I'm hoping on this call is familiar with this disposition of the Chevy Chase Civic Site Neighborhood Library Community Center, and the redevelopment of it. The request for proposals was issued to the public in January of 2024. The project must include a new library, community center, and housing at the site located at 5601 and 5627 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. This has been a huge topic of debate over the last 2 years, largely centered around what would be developed at the site and how much affordable housing would be created. So, brief rundown of each of these. The first presentation was by True Ground Housing Partners, and they pitched a development with 113 affordable apartments above a new library and state-of-the-art community center with 62 total parking spaces. The apartments will range in size from 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms in order to accommodate families. In addition to the community center, there's also plans for a kids' play area, basketball, and pickleball courts and a community garden. And then there's a consortium of design partners and developers associated with each of these projects. So this is one of the renderings of that. Linked within that spreadsheet and also on our agenda this evening were the full links to the presentations of each of these. In the interest of time, we will just be looking at the one rendering that was in the Urban Turf article. And that's what I'm using these summaries from too, because I thought they were concise and to the point. So this next one was by the Chevy Chase Development Partners. This includes 52,000 square foot library and community center with 68 parking spaces and 141,000 square foot senior housing building with a range of affordability options for renters from 30% to 100% MFI. The development also calls for an outdoor amphitheater, a pickleball court, and a playground, among other features. All right, moving on. Next up, we have this guy here. This is the Chevy Chase Commons development team led by the community builder. They're pitching a 120 unit all affordable building along with an on-site cafe run by DC Central Kitchen, 70 parking spaces, 17,000 square foot library, a 32,000 square foot community center. The unit mix at the apartment building will include 1 to 3 bedrooms for income levels ranging from $35,000 to $110,000. The community center will include a gymnasium, preschool facilities, and a yoga room. There will also be outdoor courts and a playground. I also want to just say, we're not trying to pick which proposal we like the best. We're trying to pick the things in each proposal that we want to see more of, or that we think are outliers to others or better than, not better than others, but okay, this one's not working correctly. So the next one, development team comprised of East Bank, Victory Housing, Roadwood Strategies, and Montage Development Group, pitching a 139 unit, all affordable senior rental building of 46,000 square foot community center and library and 76 shared below grade parking spaces. The apartments will be 1 and 2 bedroom units, catering to incomes at 30% and 50% of area median income, AMI. Next up, we have a proposal for a 191 unit all affordable development with a new modern library and community center. The apartments will be for tenants earning at or below 80% AMI with a dedicated portion for senior renters. Outdoor spaces will include a playground, stage, park space, as well as a bike share dock and a new bus shelter. Oops. Next up, and I swear we're only almost done because there's only 8 of these. This development proposal is for 183 units of affordable rental building, a 25,300 square foot community center, a new library, along with a civic plaza and 93 parking spaces. The unit mix at the rental building will range from studio apartments to 3 bedrooms with affordability levels ranging from 30% to 80% MFI. Outdoor recreation areas will include a children's play area, tennis, pickleball, and basketball courts. And then we have this pitch of the hub of Chevy Chase, a proposal that includes 206 unit building consisting of affordable workforce and market rate housing, along with a new community center and library. This proposal also includes a tremendous amount of outdoor components, including an amphitheater, outdoor classroom, several sports courts, and a neighborhood retail. And last up is this guy here. This is a 156 unit all affordable development, along with a new library and community center surrounding a central plaza. The outdoor spaces will include a large playground, a multi-purpose sports court, and a splash park, and additional fitness areas. All right, so I will flip over to this spreadsheet and then open this up for discussion. The idea is to formulate, I'm hoping, a letter with what, we kind of are desiring out of this from 3C that we want to input into this conversation and this process for the development teams and the deputy mayor group to ruminate on. So with that, up for discussion here. So who wants to start? Bob.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think we should start at the basic level, which is we support housing at this site. I think there was a long process that started with amending the comprehensive plan and a small area plan, which got adopted by council into the comprehensive plan that calls for mixed use at this site, including housing and leveraging the city-owned aspect of it. And I say that, and you've just gone through 8 proposals which offer that, but I feel like this is a live and active conversation for some up in Chevy Chase that they still don't want housing at their library and community center. And I feel like we, as stakeholders in the district and in Ward 3, who has every bit of right to speak on the disposition of public land, should make our voice very clear that housing on this site is absolutely appropriate and necessary. Particularly in today's environment where affordable housing cannot be built with public subsidies, given the state of the budget. The places where it can be built is on land that's already owned by the city. So I think that should be number one. A couple other comments just from, looking through this. I'm not crazy about senior only housing. I think the housing should be for, affordable, but for a range of income types and family types. I don't think it should be limited to a particular age group. So those are my 2 big things. I probably have some other comments, but I'll stop there.
All right, Mac.
I want to first agree with everything Bob said and build on it. I really liked the proposals that had a mix of unit sizes, including ones that went up to 3 bedrooms. I think anyone who's ever tried to find an apartment up and down this part of Connecticut Avenue can tell you that finding one that has 2 bedrooms that's affordable, let alone 3, is nigh impossible. And having worked last summer with the Office of Planning doing child-friendly DC, it is hard to raise a kid in DC. Everyone's saying we don't have enough space, and so I think we really should push for a mix of unit sizes. And I really also liked the idea that some of them are looking to cater to different age groups. Yes, we're going to have a library. Yes, we're going to have a community center. But I like that we're trying to incorporate childcare and fitness into this to make sure that all members of the community can partake in this development rather than kind of segmented silos.
Okay. Jared, I'll get to you in a second. Are there any other commissioners or committee members who wish to speak now? Bob.
Yeah, just another thing. I would love to see whatever project gets approved, that it have downward pressure on parking and certainly no surface parking. I think there's things to do with the outdoor space, and if you're going to build a building of this size, you can have underground parking, which I think most of these have, but some of them I saw did have surface parking, and I feel like that's a waste of outdoor space. So that would be another comment. And then I guess the other thing, as beyond my expertise, but I know like the DEMPED in picking the proposal that works best should really be prioritizing a partner that is on sound financial footing. Because they're going to be building this and managing it, and we've seen affordable developers go under in recent months, and I feel like that that is I think probably a table stakes to any of this, but it's an important thing that we could call out to say that we want to make sure that the long-term success of this project will hinge on who those partners are and their stability.
Okay. Kathy.
Thanks, Janelle. Yeah, I think probably others have taken a better look at this than I have. I really have not been involved in all of the great amount of controversy about what to do with the site. But I do feel strongly on the issue of the senior housing, that it would be a real mistake to go with these all senior things. I think that to add to the vitality of the area with having it open to people of all ages, that's I think very important. I am pretty astonished at some of the numbers of housing units that we're talking about here with some of the proposals, where they're talking about like 183 and they're talking 206 and so forth. It simply, I mean, that is one of those things where it's a first impression. A number of you all and people on the phone have a better sense of what that is, and I don't know what kind of square footage they're thinking about for the units or whatever, but I do think I would tend to, if I had to make a decision, which I don't right now on anything, but if I had to look at it, I'd be saying, I do get the economic, attraction to having 206 or, et cetera. But I think that what is feasible and what's going to work is going to have something to do with that. I also I realize that we're not the ones who are passing on economic feasibility of these proposals, but I am wondering, particularly in the current era in which the amount of any form of subsidies for housing is kind of up in the air. Has anybody else had an opportunity to look at how these affordable cuts here would work and would be internally functioning? And that's really all that I have to say about it at this point.
Great, thank you. Jared.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say that I went to the most recent meeting for this, and I would really encourage everyone to go if they can. I know they're usually on like Saturday afternoons, so it's not super convenient time, but the feelings and like emotions at these meetings really run high, and the people in the neighborhood certainly have strong feelings, on both sides of this issue. but yeah, I just would encourage people to try to go and speak at these meetings if they can. And I will note that a lot of the people at these meetings specifically said that they wanted more parking, and that like even the, you know, proposals with the most parking was still not enough. And so I guess in my mind, I'm on the same page as everybody else that I've heard so far, that you know, restricting to certain age groups may not be the best idea. And I think in terms of like the economic feasibility of this, if you have mixed income, you know, some market rate units in there, that does kind of help with that in the long term, medium term as well. And in my mind, like more housing is better. I think all of these definitely fit within, you know, the zoning for the area. And, you know, this is an area that certainly could absorb a lot more people. There's a lot of amenities in the area, you know, no direct metro access, but they do have pretty high frequency buses. And, you know, the metro might be about a 20-minute walk away. So, you know, relative for DC, it might not be the best, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's still very transit rich. So in my mind, more housing's better. We should have mixed income, you know, some designated affordable and some market rate. And I'm on the same page with, I think we should keep the parking underground and to a minimum, just because that's going to drive up costs. Well, the problem is you put it underground, it's going to drive up costs, but, you know, surface parking, that takes away a lot of the public and amenity space as well.
Great. I should mention that I was at this meeting where these proposals were presented for 6 hours on a Saturday. I took the L2 to get there. And then I went to the Phillies game. That's when I left before the community comments. Game started at 4. I left there at 3. And I was down in Navy Yard well before first pitch, having taken the L2 to Tenleytown Station. So it can be done. I will also echo the comments about like the underground parking does become very expensive. It's about averages, and this is before tariff time, $20,000 to $50,000 per parking stall to build that. So that's where you start to see, to Kathy's point, less units total being built, because those affordable units, there's a subsidy involved in that. And then there's still now more parking there for some reason. So that's where the less unit starts to play out. You can't get to 206 in that 206 unit proposal is the one that has the affordable units, the workforce units, and the market rate units all at a pretty even mix. And I think most of their parking spaces, which 147, are all underground. But I agree too with the points about not limiting it to just seniors. I think there's a lot to be said about having mixed age programming at community centers where seniors can read books to kids, but you need kids in the area at some sort of population level to really make that work. And I think the opportunity of having like the playgrounds, and like we don't have, you know, a full-size gym available to us. And there's a number of things that can be done in full-size gyms. So, and the other thing is, this is happening. People still seem convinced that some people in Chevy Chase still seem convinced that they can stop this project. You're not getting a new community center and you're not getting a new library without the housing. And both are needed, and this is moving forward. So it's time to be like, let's evaluate the proposals and like, what do we like? What looks good? What doesn't? The other thing that I think was coming up a little bit too, that I just want to make sure everybody in this group understands. They're not building to the height that's possible here. There's 65 in penthouse, I think, is the highest. I want to note that a penthouse is a mechanical floor. It's where the elevator needs to have its equipment or HVAC system sits. It's not a penthouse in like the sense of opulence of like that unit type. And I think some people might have been getting that a little mixed up. And that's a part of like when architects are speaking to like zoning commission, use penthouse. When architects are speaking to community, we need to say this is the mechanical floor and be clear like about what it is and what it's not. So I thought, you know, it would have been interesting to see a proposal from a team that wasn't local. These are all local firms that are very familiar with the drama and the site. I would have liked to see one proposal that a team was just given, here is the physical context of the site and the neighborhood character and not the neighborhood characters, and see what they would have come up with without like with less of a like stigma of like this is going to be hard, you know, just facts and less vibes and emotions, just to have that comparison. So that's my soapbox on this for now. Bob and then Mac.
Yeah, just the last point I want to make. I do like the idea of using the outdoor space. The outdoor space is used today, although there is a ton of surface parking at those current sites. But I also would like to point out that, you know, a third of the mile to the west is the Chevy Chase playground, and a half a mile to the east is the Pointer Lafayette Park. There's a lot of, you know, playgrounds and active space. There's tennis courts at both of those locations. You'd think that this space, the use of the outdoor space, might be something that's more community oriented and unique. So that we'd use this for another playground, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of outdoor public space in walkable distance from this site, that the community center, you know, outdoor space might be something that's more community oriented. I'm probably alone in that view.
No, I also think the amphitheater ones that had that in there were kind of interesting. Is that what you were thinking more about?
Yeah, I mean, that's unique. Like, that's not something that's available anywhere in the area. Basketball courts are available in the area. Tennis courts are available in the area. Playgrounds are available in the area. You could have a small playground for, you know, but I'm just saying is like repeating what's already available is not, I think, the best use of the outdoor space, whereas it's a civic site. What is something that's unique that can, you know, be multi-purpose?
Okay, cool.
But again, I know I may be a minority in that view.
I don't think so, but Mac, go ahead.
I mean, I don't think you're the minority, Bob. I would like a outdoor amphitheater, but I'm also a former theater kid. I just quickly went through all 8 proposals doing just like a little keyword search, and like only 2 of them really mention bikes, and none of them have like a bike room. And I know that seems small, but like living in a small 600, I think we're like 650 square foot, 1 bedroom. You don't have room for your bikes in that space, and heaven forbid you have children. And I think like asking for like, if we're, you know, since we're saying, hey, please don't have a lot of parking, I don't think it's too much to ask to say, could you just build a bike room, which is basically 4 rooms and some bike racks, or 4 walls and a bike rack in your basement somewhere. One talked about capital bike share, and a couple are like, there's some bike racks outside, but nobody's going to store their bikes outside. That's a terrible idea year round. And I just think if we're going to write a letter, I want to ask these proposals to say, you know, what can you do to emphasize active transportation and transit use? I know it's the terminus of the L2, which is soon to become something else that I don't remember. But I think that's something that we need to do like hand in hand to be like, okay, we get that we're asking for less parking. Can you please do something to help ease people's transition to using other modes of transit, rather than just asking them to throw it in their apartment?
Yeah, I think I do feel like there was a question or two asked about if there was bike storage parking included in the garage designs. I think some of them just didn't have that detail fleshed out in those drawings. and I forget what the answer is, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that that definitely should be something that, you know, there should be in this underground garage or whatever you're proposing, like dedicated bicycle storage. Kathy?
Just another couple thoughts at the top, you know, Janelle, if you go up there, I mean, they have a breakdown in how much space they see being allocated to the library versus, you know, the residential and so forth. And there's a bit of variation in the library space, you know, I think, and some of them seem to leave that out. I think that's significant just to the extent that for myself, I certainly think of that as a key part of that whole area, that whole civic center up there now. And, you know, you'd want to make sure that that is preserved. And I don't have a feel for like how big is the Cleveland Park Library. I couldn't tell you. But I think that
27,000
it's
square feet.
27,000. You're wonderful. So the Perkins Eastman, the proposal with the library at 17,000 square feet, that's substantially smaller. And I, you know, that could work. I mean, if you had to do it smaller, you probably could. You just have fewer physical books, you know, but preserve all of the electronic equipment because it's important for people to have access to that. Anyway, if you don't have to though, you know, I think that's something to consider. I'm a little confused myself on, you know, the retail side of it. It seems as though the proposals call for, some of them call for like a cafe, some of them have like another little one or two things or something. It doesn't seem like it's very robust. I don't know whether anybody's really thought about whether that actually all belongs there or whether the Civic Center could kind of do without it. I mean, I don't have any strong opinion about it. It's just like, you know, is anybody really thinking about that? Or is that just something that people have thrown in to get a few additional points of some kind? I think on each one of these items, it's a wonderful, you know, summary. You know, I think you'd have to like do a little bit of thinking. And obviously a lot of people before me have done a lot of thinking already. But you know, I think it's worth, you know, dedicating a little bit of thought to some of that as we prepare our letter.
Yeah, totally. There is a minimum that they're required to meet square footage wise for the library and community center programming. If I recall correctly, Perkins Eastman, who was the architect for the Cleveland Park Library, they were kind of sharing programming space between the library and the community center, and like there's an overlap, and it that's nuanced detail, but one of the things that was different about their proposal is that they're proposing keeping the existing library structure, like the bones of it, and not completely doing a tear down, but more of not adaptive reuse because it's kind of the same use, but a renovation of it, which was definitely unique among the other proposals. But there's definitely like a minimum square footage, and if they are not meeting that, they have to justify it. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's gigantic variation like between the community center that the second proposal envisions, which is 52,000. And I see that they don't have anything separate for the library.
Well, I think they bulked both of those two together in
yes, right.
So, but yeah, I think, does anyone else have a comment? Otherwise, I want to go over kind of next steps and like wrap this up because I've kept everyone too long now, and I apologize, but this is interesting. Anyone else, any other comments at this time? So I'm going to suggest that we start the Google Doc on like a letter of what our initial thoughts are, and we have what 3E, Bob, help me out, E has put out there as a draft. So can put that out there so we can see what they're saying. We don't have to say exactly what they're saying, but like get an idea of what their thoughts are and start formulating our own so that next week when we notice our May 19th meeting, which I'm starting, I think I'm making up that date. We'll send out the notice next Monday on the 12th for the meeting on the 19th. We at least have like a starting document to continue the discussion with the larger community when the notice goes out. So I will hopefully either get that document started today or by the latest tomorrow evening so that folks have enough time to hopefully get some initial thoughts in it. Does that sound like a plan that works for folks?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Anyone have anything else? Kathy, I know you had some idea or items you wanted to add to future agenda, but not tonight. Okay. Anyone else have anything else for the good of this evening's order? All right, hearing and seeing none. Again, thank you all for your participation this evening. I know it was a bit of a long one, but lots of interesting, good content. So thank you again. Have a good night.
Very interesting. Thanks.
Thank you.